Hello, it's Bart again, and welcome to another one of my Sunset Soliloquies. This week we are focusing on key communication concepts, and today I want to address a little bit more about conflict and how we can deal with conflict more effectively. Well, some things to know about conflict is that people always have a different set of beliefs, perceptions, and experiences than you will have. So everyone's going to see things differently, and we all believe that our one different way, the way I see it, is right. And that means if someone else sees it differently from me, I guess that makes them wrong. Well, actually, they can be equally right, but have a different perception. So here's a way to approach dealing with people who have different perspectives if you want them to listen to how you see it. The number one thing is when you approach this, do not come about it by making how they see it wrong. And a lot of us do that unconsciously. We're not even aware we're doing it. So when I listen to somebody and say, well, I don't see it that way, well, they're thinking, oh, so you think I'm wrong? Again, you don't want to push those buttons that people tend to get defensive because then they're not listening to you. And if you want someone to listen, whose responsibility is it for you to get them to listen? So to get someone to listen, here's some key elements you might use in your communication with them. Number one, use I messages. So you might suggest to someone, well, here's how I see it. Because it's always valid when you share your experience. This is my experience. That's not saying someone else's experience is wrong. It's just saying this is mine, which is always a fact. It is true. The second thing is you want to validate their perspective, because everybody else thinks their way of seeing it is right. So if you want them to be willing to listen to you, be willing to validate how they see it. So you might start it off with saying, I can see how you might see it that way, or I can understand how you might come up with that conclusion. And of course, if you don't understand how they would come up with that conclusion, always be the one who's willing to be wrong. People don't like it when you make them wrong, but they don't mind if you're the one who's wrong. So always be willing to be the person who's confused or who's just not getting it. So you might say something like, I'm sorry, I'm not really following you, or I'm not really understanding how you came up with that. Can you tell me more about that? Or can you explain that to me? Or would you expand on that? So people are willing to explain themselves so that you can validate, but you've got to do it in a way that doesn't make them wrong. As a matter of fact, if you can, try to make them the opposite of wrong. We'll address that in my next video.